step out of the car now." General Samuel Pierce kept his hands on the steering wheel, calm and composed. The flashing red and blue lights behind him painted the dashboard in flickering anxiety. He was in uniform. His name tag clearly read Pierce, but to Officer Dale Calloway, that didn't matter. Before we continue, tell us where in the world are you watching from? Drop it in the comments below. And if you enjoy this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more powerful content like this. All he saw was a black man behind the wheel of a luxury vehicle, driving through a wealthy neighborhood. Calloway's hand hovered over his holster as he barked orders. Samuel tried to speak, but the officer cut him off, shouting, accusing, demanding. In under 60 seconds, he was yanked from the vehicle, slammed onto the hood, and cuffed like a criminal. No questions, no explanations, no recognition of the stars on his shoulder or the military ID he attempted to show. Samuel could hear the neighbors whispering. A jogger paused mid-step to record. Somewhere in the chaos, a child asked her mother why a soldier was being arrested. And still, Officer Calloway muttered under his breath, calling him another thug in a stolen car. What Calloway didn't know was that General Samuel Pierce wasn't just any soldier. He was a decorated U.S. Army general with over 30 years of service, a graduate of West Point, and the current director of counter-terror operations for the Pentagon. But none of that stopped a racist cop from assuming guilt the second he saw black skin. Samuel didn't argue. He didn't resist. He simply asked for one thing. "May I make a call?" Calloway laughed. "Yeah, sure. Call your parole officer." Instead, Samuel called a number that only a handful of people in the country have access to. It rang once. "Yes, General," came the voice on the other end. "I've been detained," Samuel said. "I need assistance." Within minutes, everything changed. Two unmarked black SUVs pulled up. Men in suits stepped out. One flashed a badge from the Department of Defense. The other leaned in close to Calloway and whispered something that turned his face white. The cuffs came off immediately. "Sir, I didn't know," Calloway stammered. "No?" Samuel replied, his voice level and cold. "You didn't care to know?" The officers from the Pentagon escorted Samuel to his car. As they pulled away, Calloway stood frozen, watching the man he had just humiliated drive off without a scratch, but with an entire nation about to hear what happened. The video hit the internet that evening. It showed the entire arrest, the officer's aggression, the general's restraint, the moment federal agents arrived. Hashtags exploded, arrested the general, and not one call to the Pentagon. By morning, millions had seen it. News anchors, veterans, politicians, celebrities. People were stunned, not just by the disrespect, but by how easily a black man's entire identity was erased by one assumption. Pierce later shared his story on national television, not to destroy Calloway's life, but to shine a spotlight on the rot within the system. "I've led battalions into war zones," he said, "but the most dangerous place I've ever stood was on an American sidewalk with my hands raised." It wasn't the first time. Samuel spoke of other moments, stores where he was followed, meetings where people mistook him for security, neighbors who clutched their purses tighter when he passed by in uniform. These weren't just incidents. They were reminders that for some, skin color will always speak louder than credentials. Officer Calloway was suspended, then fired, then charged with misconduct and false arrest. The city issued a formal apology, but the damage was done. Samuel, however, turned pain into purpose. He launched a national initiative to reform traffic stop procedures and racial bias training in law enforcement. He met with cadets, shared his story, and pushed for change with facts, grace, and unshakable poise. He didn't want revenge, he wanted reform. And people listened. Departments across the country began implementing new protocols. Veteran officers were retrained. Bias was no longer dismissed, it was confronted. Because when a U.S. Army general in full uniform can be mistaken for a criminal, something is deeply broken. And when that general chooses humility over rage, action over anger, something powerful begins to heal. Samuel Pierce reminded the world that true strength isn't about how loud you shout, but how deeply you move others by standing tall when everything around you says, kneel.